The forest breathed around them, dense and alive with alien life. Strange creatures skittered through the underbrush, their bioluminescent forms casting eerie shadows in the dim twilight. The trees, tall and sinewy, hummed faintly, their vibrations resonating with the planet's rhythmic pulse. Captain Mira Kael tightened her grip on her makeshift spear, her eyes darting to the dense foliage ahead. Her crew was scattered, injured, or worse, after their shuttle crashed on this unforgiving planet. Beside her teenage son Jarek struggled to keep up, clutching a salvaged medical kit. "We have to find the others," Jarek said, his voice trembling but determined. "We will," Mira assured him, though her own doubts gnawed at her. The planet, designated PX-17, was uncharted and hostile. Their distress beacon was operational but weak, and the local fauna seemed disturbingly eager to test their resolve. As they pushed deeper into the forest, a low, guttural growl froze them in their tracks. Mira's heart pounded as she scanned the area. "Stay behind me," she whispered to Jarek. The growl came again, closer this time. From the shadows emerged a hulking creature, its form both terrifying and mesmerizing. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a muscular frame covered in sleek black fur. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its razor-sharp claws glinted in the dim light. Mira instinctively raised her spear, knowing it was a futile defense against something so massive. To her surprise, the creature didn't attack. It tilted its head, studying them with an unsettling intelligence. Jarek whispered, "It's not attacking." "Why isn't it attacking?" Mira didn't lower her weapon. "I don't know, but don't provoke it." The creature took a step closer, its movements slow and deliberate. Mira's grip tightened, but then she noticed something. Its eyes weren't just watching, they were calculating almost. Curious. Before she could react, the creature growled softly and turned, vanishing back into the forest. "That was weird," Jarek said, his voice shaky. "Let's not stick around to find out why," Mira replied, urging him forward. The next day, Mira and Jarek stumbled upon the wreckage of their shuttle. Pieces of the ship were strewn across a clearing, and the bodies of 2 crew members lay motionless nearby. Mira's stomach sank. "Stay here," she told Jarek, approaching the wreckage cautiously. As she searched for supplies, another growl broke the silence. This time it was followed by heavy footfalls. The creature had returned, and it wasn't alone. 2 smaller predators, sleek and vicious, circled the clearing, their eyes fixed on Mira and Jarek. "Mom!" Jarek shouted, his voice filled with panic. Mira raised her spear again, backing toward her son. The predators growled, their movements predatory and precise. Just as the first lunged, the massive creature from before burst into the clearing. Its roar shook the ground, and the smaller predators froze. "What is it doing?" Jarek asked, wide-eyed. The beast didn't hesitate. It attacked the smaller predators with brutal efficiency, its claws slashing through their sleek forms. Within moments, the creatures lay motionless, and the hulking predator stood over them, panting heavily. Mira and Jarek stared, stunned. "It saved us," Jarek said, his voice barely above a whisper. The creature turned to them, its glowing eyes meeting Mira's. It growled softly, a sound that was almost reassuring. Over the next few days, the creature lingered near the wreckage, watching Mira and Jarek from a distance. It didn't attack or show aggression, but its presence was impossible to ignore. Mira's suspicions grew. Why is it staying here? She wondered aloud. Jarek, more curious than fearful, approached the creature with caution. Maybe it's not like the others. Maybe it's different. Different doesn't mean safe, Mira warned, though she couldn't deny the truth in Jarek's observation. The creature, as if understanding their conversation, lowered itself onto the ground, its massive form appearing almost docile. One night, as Mira sifted through the wreckage for more supplies, Jarek sat near the creature, sketching it in a notebook. "Do you think it's alone?" Jarek asked, his voice tinged with sadness. Mira paused. "If it is, that might explain why it's here. Maybe it's looking for something." Jarek glanced at the creature, whose glowing eyes seemed almost mournful. "Maybe it's like us, stranded. The truth came unexpectedly. While scavenging in the forest, Mira and Jarek stumbled upon a research facility, its walls half buried in the ground. Inside were rows of stasis chambers, most of them shattered. On a console, Mira found logs detailing experiments conducted by an unknown faction. The entries described a genetically engineered predator designed for warfare, a creature enhanced with intelligence and ferocity. Subject 17, Mira read aloud. Deemed a failure due to excessive empathy. Recommended for termination. She looked at Jarek, realization dawning. It's one of them. Jarek nodded slowly. But it's not like the others, it saved us. As they returned to the wreckage, the creature, Subject 17, stood waiting. Mira's eyes met its glowing gaze, and for the first time she saw not a monster, but a being searching for purpose. We're more alike than I thought, she murmured. Subject 17 let out a soft growl, its head dipping slightly, as if acknowledging her words. The bond between them was fragile but growing. What Mira didn't know was how far the creature would go to protect them, or the forces that would come searching for their failed experiment. The morning air was thick with tension as Mira, Jarek, and Subject 17 stood near the wreckage of the shuttle. The discovery of the research logs had changed everything. Subject 17 wasn't a mindless predator. It was a creation abandoned for being flawed. Mira knelt beside Subject 17, her hand hovering over its furred, muscular frame. "You're not what they wanted, are you?" she murmured. The creature tilted its head, letting out a low, almost sorrowful hum. Jarek crouched beside her, his notebook in hand. "They threw you away because you weren't violent enough, but you're more than they realized, aren't you?" Subject 17's glowing eyes flicked toward the forest, its ears twitching. It growled softly, its body tensing. "What is it?" Mira asked, scanning the tree line. The answer came in a roar that shook the ground. From the shadows emerged two massive creatures, larger and more menacing than any they had encountered. Their sleek black forms gleamed with metallic enhancements, and their eyes burned with an unnatural red light. "Let me guess," Jarek said, stepping back. "More of those perfect predators?" Mira raised her weapon, her heart pounding. "Looks like they found us." The enhanced predators wasted no time. One lunged at Jarek, its claws slicing through the air. Subject 17 intercepted, slamming into the creature with bone-rattling force. The two beasts tumbled into the underbrush, their roars echoing through the forest. "Stay close," Mira shouted, pulling Jarek behind her as the second predator charged. She fired her makeshift weapon, the plasma bolt grazing its shoulder but barely slowing it. The creature snarled, its metallic claws gleaming as it advanced. Mira braced for the attack, but before it could strike, Subject 17 leaped from the shadows, slamming into it with the force of a falling meteor. The battle was brutal. Subject 17 fought with a mixture of raw power and calculated precision, its movements sharp and purposeful. Despite its size, it was fast, using the terrain to its advantage. But the enhanced predators were relentless. They fought without hesitation, their attacks coordinated and deadly. "Mom, we have to help," Jarek shouted, clutching a salvaged plasma cutter. "Stay back," Mira barked, firing another shot at one of the creatures. Subject 17 roared as it was slammed into a tree, its crystalline eyes flickering. The enhanced predator moved in for the kill, but Jarek, ignoring Mira's orders, hurled the plasma cutter. The makeshift weapon struck the predator's face, briefly disorienting it. Subject 17 seized the opportunity, its claws raking across the predator's throat. The creature collapsed, lifeless, as Subject 17 turned to face the final opponent. The remaining predator hesitated, its red eyes flicking between the humans and Subject 17. It growled, low and menacing, before retreating into the forest. Subject 17 slumped to the ground, its body trembling from exhaustion. Mira rushed to its side, her hand resting on its massive shoulder. "You saved us again," she said softly. Jarek knelt beside her, his eyes wide with admiration. "You're not a failure," he said. "You're a hero." Subject 17 let out a low rumble, its eyes softening. Later, as Mira tended to Subject 17's wounds, a low hum filled the air. She froze, her eyes darting to the sky. A sleek black ship descended through the atmosphere, its sharp lines and dark hull a stark contrast to the forest's vibrant greenery. "Reinforcements," Mira muttered. The ship landed with a deafening hiss, and a group of armored figures emerged. Their leader, a tall woman with cold, calculating eyes, surveyed the scene. "Subject 17, she said, her voice sharp. "You've caused quite the inconvenience." Mira stepped between the woman and the creature. "You abandoned it. Now you want it back?" The woman's gaze flicked to Mira. "It's not yours to keep. It's a weapon, not a pet." "No," Mira said firmly. "It's more than that. It saved our lives. Twice." Jarek stood beside his mother, his voice trembling but resolute. "It's not a weapon. It's part of our family." The woman smirked. "Admirable sentiment, but the corporation that funded its creation doesn't share your feelings. It's property, and it belongs to us." Subject 17 growled, stepping forward to stand beside Mira and Jarek. Its crystalline eyes glowed brighter, its stance protective. The woman raised a hand, signaling her team to advance. Mira gritted her teeth. "You'll have to go through us first." The tension was palpable as the armored figures drew their weapons. Subject 17 let out a deafening roar, its claws flexing in anticipation. Before anyone could strike, a series of sharp explosions rocked the clearing. The corporation's ship burst into flames, its engines destroyed by a well-placed plasma charge. From the shadows emerged two of Mira's missing crewmates, armed and ready. "Looks like we got here just in time," said Lieutenant Dren, his weapon trained on the intruders. The standoff ended quickly. Outnumbered and outmaneuvered, the corporation's team retreated, their leader casting one last icy glare at Mira. "This isn't over," she said before disappearing into the ship. As the vessel ascended, Mira turned to Subject 17. "You're not a failure," she said. "You're the best thing to happen to us." Jarek hugged the creature, its massive frame leaning into him gently. Subject 17 rumbled softly, its glowing eyes filled with something new. Hope. In the days that followed, the team repaired their shuttle, preparing to leave the hostile planet. Subject 17 stayed close, its presence a constant reminder of resilience and redemption. As they prepared for launch, Jarek turned to the creature. "You're coming with us, right?" Mira smiled. "Of course. You're family now." Subject 17 let out a low, melodic hum, its eyes glowing brighter as it stepped aboard the shuttle. Together, they left the planet behind, bound not by programming or instinct, but by trust and the unlikeliest of bonds.